Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and you've seen the previews for the wild set that is Mystery Booster 2, full of not only tons of reprint cards as they were originally printed, but also new cards with white borders, future sight borders, and playtest cards alike. There's a ton to take in here. So much so that you might have missed some of these subtle references. So I thought, how about I share some of my favorites? I've especially got Mystery Booster 2 on the mind since the sale of Festival in a Box, which contains a box of Mystery Booster 2, goes on sale this Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific. I know a lot of you don't want to miss this, so there's a link in the video description that will take you to the page if you want to check it out or sign up to get a notification when the sale goes live. All right, so MB2. Let me fill you in on 10 Easter eggs you might have missed. How many of these did you know? Let me know in the comments down below. Here we go. Let's kick things off with one from a Future Sight frame card. So one thing we did with this set was take a small number of cards that only appeared on Magic the Gathering Arena and print them into paper so that people could finally get copies to put in their cubes. Ones from Alchemy that use digital-only mechanics, like Oracle of the Alpha and Sanguine Brushstroke, got the Acorn stamp, making sure they wouldn't be legal in Eternal formats. Of course, in Commander, you can always rule zero them in if you want to. And then just a couple others that use normal Magic mechanics, like cards from the Arena Starter experience, were printed, such as Mardu Outrider. One of these cards, Goblin Gang Leader. A pretty innocuous card, but a potential addition to your Goblins deck. But here's the Easter egg. We had room for flavor text, so we added it, and check it out. They're even more dangerous outside the arena. A little nod to the program they came from. Okay, on to number 2. This time, we're hopping over to the playtest card sheet, or rather, 2 cards on the playtest card sheet. And to tell this story, we need to turn back the clocks. For many years, Wizards ran the Magic Invitational each year. The winner of each Invitational got an incredible prize to make their own Magic card. Would later bring back something similar for World Championship winners, and even put their name printed on the card. I actually made a whole video about the Invitational cards you can go and watch, after you finish this video, of course. The champions of the Invitational include some of the all-time greats of Magic, including John Finkel and Kai Buddha. They went on to make Shadow Mage Infiltrator and Void Mage Prodigy, respectively, as their Invitational cards. But those cards weren't always that way. For their respective Invitational cards, they submitted 2 different cards. Wrath of Leknif, that's Finkel backwards by the way, and Wise Drafter's Will. You'll see them here as submitted in 2000 and 2001. They were ultimately deemed too strong, and design worked with the players to come up with new cards. Well, for Mystery Booster 2, I thought a fun reference would be to make some of these infamous cards real. So you'll finally see them printed here, a throwback over 20 years in the making. By the way, a really sly reference, look at the cards they're stickered on. It's Shadow Mage Infiltrator and Void Mage Prodigy. I love putting on those little touches. Number 3. So we've got this white border sheet, ranging from cards that are funny to put in white border, to cards that are tilting to lose to in white border, and just plain cool cards. And also, of course, white cards, since those look the best in the white border, in my opinion. Anyway, have you seen Soul of Theros? Like this specific one. That art may not look familiar to you, and that's because it's art that was only ever on a Magic Online promo. This is really just a stand-in to say, for a lot of cards on these sheets in Mystery Booster 2, they have art where this is the first time it's appeared in paper. Keep your eyes out for a lot of these, there's some neat ones. Shout out to the very silly Hostage Taker Magic Online promo that finally made its way to paper here. Dinosaurs, beware. Number 4. Have you ever heard of a mechanic called Forbidden? Mark Rosewater has lightly mentioned this in articles before, but let me tell you a story. All the way back in Avacyn Restored, the team was working with the idea that very powerful magic would be locked away in the Hell Vault. You just needed to be able to access it somehow. So what if you could play with cards as powerful as Demonic Tutor and Ancestral Recall and Time Walk, but in a roundabout way? They came up with this mechanic called Forbidden. Cards with this mechanic could not start the game in your deck. Instead, you had to play other cards that shuffled cards from outside the game into your deck. It was tested seriously for a while, but turned out to be a real nightmare. First, you had to shuffle the cards into your deck somehow. Sure, you can have cards that do that, but then you had to draw them. It was both a mechanic that required specific cards to get them into your deck in the first place, and then it might never come up. Or if you drew really well, it might come up a lot and be quite frustrating. Can you imagine the mirror match where your opponent draws all their forbidden cards before you draw yours? So the mechanic was cut. All these years later, I thought Mystery Booster 2 would be a fun place to finally make what was quite really a playtest card into reality with Can't Quite Recall. Jokey reminder text aside, this was quite literally a card that was seriously tested. And in the draft format, by the way, there are some cards, like Wish, that even let you build your own concentrate to actually cast it. Let's see what you can do. On to number 5. This is a fun one. Demonic Consultation. The classic powerhouse and current day Thassa's Oracle combo piece lives on, with some fluffy, cute, new adorable artwork too. But what's up with that flavor text? Well, it serves as a double joke. When you cast a card that needs you to name a card on Magic the Gathering Online, it pops up a name box with what cards to look for, and Abandoned Hope is among some of the top ones in alphabetical order. So if you're just quickly clicking one to get rid of your deck, it's an easy choice. And then the other side of the equation is, of course, the meme equity. When playing the combo, you just want to name any card not in your deck so you can exile your library. So the question becomes, what card do you name? There are many great options, ranging from You Are Already Dead, Classy, to Stormcrow. But a classic choice has been Abandoned Hope, both because it's what your opponent should be doing, as well as a reference to the Magic Online list. So Abandoned Hope comes full circle and makes it as flavor text here. A real sly reference. Number 6. What's up with the strike-throughs on Bullshack Dragon? Well, it's time for a story. You probably know Wizards of the Coast for Magic and D&D, but one of the other huge games we make you may have never heard of, Duel Masters. This is a Japanese-only game that we make at Wizards and then is translated into Japanese and released in Japan. We did try bringing it to the US on 2 separate occasions, once as Duel Masters and once as Kaijudo, but it never quite stuck. Now this game has a lot of similarities to Magic. 5 colors, you essentially play 1 land a turn, and so on. And they do some pretty wild stuff over there that inspires us. For example, the idea for double-faced cards came from Duel Masters. In fact, the inspiration for Mystery Booster itself came from Duel Masters. They had a product called Black Box that felt like it could have anything and everything. We didn't share much about the set, just launched it, and people went nuts. You could open up everything from a calendar card to cards without artwork to even, wait for it, Magic characters translated into Duel Masters. This was a huge hit. I really wanted to try and capture the same feeling as Black Box with the original Mystery Booster. And in collaboration with the Duel Masters team, we thought it would be really fun to return the favor and put one of their cards into our game. On the left, Bullshack Dragon from Duel Masters, the short-lived English translated version. On the right, Bullshack Dragon from Mystery Booster 2. Same card with a few creative crossing outs. A very fun little nod to our hardworking partners down the hall. Number 7 is really something you have to look for to catch. So I talked about bringing online-only artwork to sets. Sure, and online-only cards, also sure. But how about online-only sets? There have been some sets that have only been released on digital formats, like Masters Edition and Vintage Masters. And we brought cards with those expansion symbols here in Mystery Booster 2, printed in paper for the first time. So many expansion symbols in this set, by the way. But there's one that is perhaps the most obscure, and I'm directly connected. It's time for another story. Before I came to work at Wizards, the Magic Online team was going to release a new duel deck for Magic Online only, Mirrored and Pure versus New Phyrexia. The twist? They wanted it to be created by fans. People could send in their deck lists as part of a contest, and Wizards would pick 2 winners. As a fan, I built a deck list and submitted it, and my deck won. It was published on Magic Online only. And technically, it was the first thing I ever designed for Magic before I even worked at Wizards. And so as a little reference to that, Mystery Booster 2 has a card in it, Spawning Pit, pulled from the hyper-obscure Mirrored and Pure versus New Phyrexia duel deck. So when you see that odd expansion symbol, know that's the beginning of my design history at Wizards. Number 8. Have you been following along with my unknown events? At MagicCons and some other events, I run these events called the unknown events with some bespoke playtest cards. I make a video recapping all the cards afterwards, and you can go watch some of those if you want to see what they do, but these are much like the playtest cards in Mystery Booster 2. Actually, if you have a keen eye, a few of them are really like the playtest cards in Mystery Booster 2. Because I've secretly been seeding a couple into all the unknown events so far. Mind blown. Ones like Who's That Praetor, Mox Poison, and Questing Cosplayer are all cards from unknown events that players have already played with over the past year and a half of these events. A very sneaky little surprise for those who made it out to play. Who knows what might be hidden in future unknown events? All right. For number 9, we're getting into some truly deep cuts. How many of you remember the Sega Dreamcast? This game system released, 26 years ago, had some great titles despite its short-lived lifespan. And if you lived in Japan in 2001, you could play the Magic game for Sega Dreamcast. It was like a very, very early Duels of the Planeswalkers. Anyway, in addition to many existing Magic cards, there were 10 new cards created just for the game. And one of them was Velikan Dragon. Well, we took the card, updated it, and put it into Mystery Booster 2, the first paper printing in history. And a real obscure reference for the handful of you who actually play this game. I don't know if a single person watching this video has, so if you are that person, please let me know you exist in the comments. And finally, number 10, what I think is probably the deepest cut in the entire set, Stone Drake. What are with these two random abilities? Let's flash back to 2010. Disney is making this movie called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. They want to tie in something, well, magical. So an important character in the movie, In World, is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. He's connected in this world to Magic the Gathering. And so, as a wild tie-in, there were even some cards featuring his likeness that have background roles in the film. The designers at the time made some bespoke designed cards just for this movie. Two of those cards, Distract and Enthrall. And those are exactly the abilities here on this card. The real kicker, the character's name in the movie is Drake Stone. Flip that around and you get Stone Drake. I think the only other person in R&D to get this reference was Aaron Forsyth. So hats off to him, and you if you got it. I wanted a really deep cut, and I certainly think I made one here. How many of these did you know? Let me know. And to get your hands on Mystery Booster 2 yourself, you can play it in events like at the upcoming MagicCon in Las Vegas, and you can also find it when Festival in a Box goes on sale at 9 a.m. this Monday. I'll talk with you again soon, and until then, go find the deep cuts on your cards. You got this. That's just one example of things you'll see here. There's definitely some more. Every pack has a bunch of these pure reprint cards, just like the original. And then there's the Future Sight and White Border sheets. Every pack has one of these. We had a lot of fun figuring out what goes on each sheet. Future Sight frame has lots of stables like Dark Ritual and Soul Ring, and also some cards